Hollywood stars Jennifer Lawrence and Keanu Reeves stumble upon a homeless boy's desperate plea and ignite a life-changing journey of hope, resilience, and second chances. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and write in the comments what city you were from. The neon lights of downtown Los Angeles flickered against the wet pavement, their glow stretching across the near-empty streets. A cold wind howled through the towering buildings, sending shivers through the few pedestrians still wandering the sidewalks. Outside the grand Starlight Royale Theater, a young boy, no older than 12, sat curled against the side of the building, his thin hoodie pulled tightly around his shoulders. His name was Ethan, and hunger had driven him to his most desperate moment yet. The golden doors of the theater swung open with a rush of warm light and echoing laughter. The city's elite poured onto the sidewalk, draped in designer fabrics, their glittering jewelry catching the city's glow. Cameras flashed as the evening's biggest stars made their exits, security teams ushering them toward sleek black SUVs. Amidst the glamour, a striking woman in a flowing silver gown stepped out, effortlessly elegant, yet refreshingly unpretentious. Jennifer Lawrence. She smiled and waved at the crowd, exuding the same approachable charm that made millions adore her. Her security team flanked her, ensuring a clear path to her waiting car. Ethan hesitated. His stomach ached from hunger, but his pride weighed heavier than his need. He took a shaky breath, stepping forward carefully, his sneakers soaked from the rain pooling along the curb. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Excuse me, miss. Can you spare $1? Just enough for something to eat?" Jennifer stopped mid-step, her piercing blue eyes settling on the boy. The bodyguards immediately tensed, ready to dismiss him, but Jennifer lifted her hand, a silent command to wait. Behind her, leaning casually against a nearby column, Keanu Reeves observed the exchange with quiet intensity. He had noticed the boy the moment he stepped forward. There was something about the way he held himself, the hesitation, the quiet determination in his voice, that told a story far beyond his simple request. The crowd around them continued to move, but for Jennifer, the world had momentarily frozen. She crouched down to Ethan's level, her expensive gown pooling onto the damp pavement, but she didn't seem to care. $1? She asked, her voice gentle yet curious. "How about we talk about more than just $1? Ethan swallowed hard, his gaze flickering to Keanu, who had stepped closer. The intensity in the actor's expression wasn't intimidating, it was something else. Understanding. For Ethan, this moment would be the turning point of his entire life. 3 months earlier, Ethan hadn't always lived on the streets. His life had once been normal, maybe even happy. He and his father, Ben, lived in a modest but cozy apartment in East Los Angeles. Ben had worked as a firefighter, a job that paid enough for them to get by. It wasn't much, but they had each other, and that was all that mattered. Then came the accident. One night, Ben ran into a burning building to save a trapped family. He got them out, but at a cost. A collapsing beam left him with a severe spinal injury, confining him to a hospital bed indefinitely. Their savings evaporated almost instantly, swallowed by overwhelming medical bills and the merciless reality of debt. Within weeks, the eviction notice arrived. Ben begged the landlord for an extension. It fell on deaf ears. Ethan had watched helplessly as their home, their safe haven, was stripped away. With no other family to turn to, they were forced to live out of their old Chevy pickup, parking in different locations every night to avoid drawing attention. The once lively, strong firefighter became a shadow of himself, his body broken, his spirit even more so. Ethan tried to hold it together. He found ways to stretch what little money they had left, choosing dollar menu meals, washing in gas station restrooms, sleeping curled up in the truck's front seat while his father lay in the back, racked with pain. But tonight, Ethan had reached his limit. His father hadn't eaten in 2 days, and their last few coins had been spent on gas to keep the truck warm at night. Desperation forced him onto Hollywood Boulevard, where he hoped the kindness of a stranger might mean the difference between going hungry and surviving another day. He never imagined that this stranger would be a world-famous actress. Back to the present. Jennifer studied Ethan's face as he spoke, listening intently as he explained his story. He never asked for pity, just a little help. Her throat tightened. Keanu, still standing a few feet away, took a deep breath, then reached into his jacket pocket. "You're doing this for your dad, aren't you?" he asked, his deep voice calm, steady. Ethan nodded, blinking back tears. Keanu exchanged a glance with Jennifer, who gave a subtle nod. Something unspoken passed between them. Then, without hesitation, Keanu pulled off his leather jacket and draped it over Ethan's shoulders. "Let's start by getting you and your dad something warm to eat," Jennifer said, standing up. She turned to her assistant. "Cancel my car. We're taking them with us." Ethan's eyes widened. "With you?" Jennifer grinned. "Well, yeah. I think you deserve more than just $1. Keanu chuckled. "Let's go." The security team, initially confused, quickly adjusted. They formed a protective circle as Jennifer, Keanu, and Ethan moved toward the curb. A sleek black SUV pulled up moments later, and Jennifer ushered Ethan inside, Keanu following close behind. As the car pulled away, Hollywood Boulevard shrank behind them. Ethan clutched the warm leather jacket around himself, his heart hammering. This was no longer about $1. This was the night everything changed. And what happened next would leave the world speechless. A night that changed everything. The cold night air swept through the dimly lit streets of downtown Los Angeles, sending a shiver down Ethan's spine as he stood beside Jennifer Lawrence and Keanu Reeves. Just minutes ago, he had been standing alone outside the Starlight Royale Theater, asking for a single $1 to buy food. Now, he was wrapped in Keanu's leather jacket, staring up at two of Hollywood's biggest stars, who seemed determined to turn his life around. Ethan couldn't wrap his head around it. He had expected Jennifer to hand him a few crumpled bills and walk away. Instead, she crouched in front of him, her silver gown pooling around her feet, her eyes filled with genuine concern. "How long have you been out here?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. His fingers tightened around the jacket sleeves, the warmth grounding him. "Just today," he lied instinctively, but under Jennifer's steady gaze, he exhaled sharply. "Okay, 3 months. 3 months on the streets. First time asking here." His voice cracked. He swallowed hard, willing the tears away. Jennifer and Keanu exchanged a look. It was subtle, but Ethan saw it. The silent communication of two people who understood hardship in ways the world didn't always see. "Where's your family?" Jennifer pressed, her tone gentle but firm. Ethan hesitated before answering, his voice barely above a whisper. "My dad. He's 3 blocks away, in our truck." Keanu crouched down beside Jennifer, his deep voice steady. "You're out here trying to take care of him, aren't you?" Ethan nodded, a single tear slipping down his cheek. He wiped it away quickly, embarrassed. "He got hurt in an accident, used to be a firefighter. But the bills..." His throat tightened. "We lost everything." Keanu's jaw clenched, a flicker of something dark flashing in his eyes. Rage? Frustration? Ethan wasn't sure, but when Keanu spoke again, his voice was calm. "That's brave, kid. Really brave. But I think we can find a better way to help." Jennifer stood, smoothing out her dress with purposeful determination. "First things first." She pulled out her phone. "Your dad needs to know you're safe." Ethan blinked in shock. He had expected sympathy, maybe a few kind words. But Jennifer Lawrence, she was making phone calls, organizing something big. His heart pounded. What was happening? The world starts to notice. The theater's security team, which had been watching the exchange from a distance, suddenly became alert as paparazzi noticed the unusual gathering. A murmur spread through the crowd. "Who's the kid?" someone whispered. "Why is Jennifer Lawrence talking to him?" Camera flashes started going off. Jennifer's assistant arrived in a sleek black SUV, pulling up to the curb. The security team moved quickly, creating a protective barrier around them. "Tell me where your dad is," Jennifer said, her voice gentle but commanding. "We're picking him up, then we're going somewhere warm." Ethan hesitated, overwhelmed. His father had never wanted charity. He'd rather sleep in the truck than accept a handout. But as Ethan looked between Jennifer and Keanu, two of the biggest stars in the world, he realized something. They weren't here to make themselves look good. They actually cared. Keanu slipped his phone out, dialing a number. "Yeah, I need a room, something long-term. Downtown." He listened for a beat, then nodded. "Make it happen." Ethan's head spun. A room. His thoughts were cut off as Jennifer's assistant opened the car door. "Let's go, kid," Keanu said, placing a reassuring hand on Ethan's shoulder. For the first time in months, Ethan felt something he had forgotten existed. Hope. A rescue in the dark. They drove in silence, the car weaving through the darkened streets. Keanu sat beside Ethan in the back seat while Jennifer made another call from the front. Minutes later, they pulled up behind a beat-up Chevy pickup parked under a broken street lamp. The sight of it made Ethan's chest ache. Jennifer stepped out first, approaching the driver's side window. Inside, Ben, Ethan's father, stirred, wincing as he sat up. His face was pale, lined with exhaustion. "Who's there?" Ben's voice was hoarse, laced with pain. "Your son's safe," Jennifer said softly, leaning against the truck. "And we're here to help." Ben's gaze flickered to the SUV, then to Keanu, who had stepped out, hands in his pockets. Recognition dawned in his tired eyes. "Wait, Keanu Reeves." Keanu smiled faintly. "Yeah." Ben shook his head in disbelief. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" Ethan stepped forward. "Dad, please, just listen." Jennifer knelt beside the truck. "We're not offering charity," she said. "We're offering a chance, a real one." Ben swallowed hard, his pride warring with desperation. "Why would you—" "Because you deserve better," Keanu interrupted, "and so does your kid." The silence stretched. Then, finally, Ben exhaled, his body sagging in defeat. "All right," Jennifer smiled. "Good choice." A new beginning. The SUV pulled away from the curb, carrying Ethan and his father toward something new. Jennifer turned to Ethan, who still looked stunned. "I have a friend who runs a recovery program, full medical support, housing assistance. We're getting your dad there." Ethan's throat tightened. "And me?" Keanu ruffled his hair. "You, kid, are getting back in school, and trust me, we're going to make sure you have everything you need." Tears burned Ethan's eyes. He turned toward his father, who for the first time in months looked relieved. As the city lights blurred past, Ethan realized something. He had asked for $1. Instead, he was getting his life back. And this was only the beginning. A night of miracles begins. The luxury SUV came to a smooth stop outside Emilio's Trattoria, a high-end Italian restaurant nestled in the heart of Beverly Hills. Its golden glow spilled onto the quiet street, the scent of freshly baked bread and simmering garlic filling the night air. Ethan sat in the back seat, still unable to fully process the whirlwind of events that had brought him here. Keanu Reeves sat beside him, his presence calming yet undeniably powerful, while Jennifer Lawrence turned in her seat, flashing Ethan a reassuring smile. Just an hour ago, he had been standing on the streets, hoping for $1 to buy food. Now he was about to step into a restaurant where a single meal cost more than what he and his father had survived on for weeks. It felt like a dream. Jennifer nudged him lightly. "Ready, champ?" Ethan swallowed hard, then nodded. They stepped out of the car and approached the restaurant entrance. A well-dressed maitre d' stood at the podium, his sharp eyes scanning the group. Recognition flickered across his face as he spotted Jennifer and Keanu, but it was quickly replaced by a carefully practiced politeness. "Good evening, Miss Lawrence, Mr. Reeves," he greeted smoothly. "Shall I prepare your usual private dining suite?" Jennifer nodded. "Yes, please, and make sure we get a lot of food." She gave Ethan a playful wink. "Our guest here has had a long day." Ethan glanced at his reflection in the restaurant's massive glass windows. His oversized hoodie, his worn-out sneakers. He looked completely out of place. People like him didn't belong in places like this. But Keanu, noticing the hesitation, placed a firm yet gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You belong wherever people treat you with kindness," he said quietly. "Remember that." A table like no other. The private booth at the back of the restaurant was lavish yet intimate. Plush leather seats, a white tablecloth so crisp it looked untouched, and golden chandeliers that bathed the room in a warm glow. Ethan and his father, Ben, sat side by side, still processing how they had ended up here. Ben, whose tired eyes held a mixture of gratitude and wariness, cleared his throat. I'm not sure how to say this." He trailed off, glancing at Keanu and Jennifer. "This is a lot." Jennifer, effortlessly graceful, poured a glass of water for him. "You don't have to say anything yet," she said gently. "Just let us help." Keanu grinned and flipped open the menu. "Now, let's get to the important part. What are we eating?" Ethan, still too overwhelmed to speak, looked at the menu filled with dishes he couldn't even pronounce. He didn't belong here. The thought curled in his stomach like a weight. What if people stared? What if someone called them out? Jennifer, sensing his unease, leaned in. "Look, buddy, this place makes the best ravioli in town." She pointed at the menu. "And the lasagna? It's life-changing. So let's go all out, yeah?" Ben chuckled, shaking his head. "You two really don't do things halfway, do you?" Keanu smirked. "Not when it comes to making things right." An unforgettable feast. The table quickly filled with plates of pasta, garlic bread, fresh caprese salad, and golden, crispy arancini. Ethan took his first bite, and his eyes widened. He had never tasted anything like it. Jennifer and Keanu kept the conversation light, sharing behind-the-scenes stories from their movie sets. They made Ethan laugh for the first time in months. His father even cracked a smile, the tension in his shoulders easing with each passing moment. Then, halfway through the meal, Jennifer's assistant arrived, carrying several large shopping bags. "What's this?" Ben asked, his brow furrowing. Jennifer grinned. "Just some essentials." Ethan reached into one of the bags and pulled out a brand new jacket, thick, warm, something that would actually keep out the cold. He swallowed hard. No one had ever done something like this for him before. Keanu, meanwhile, set his phone on the table, turning it so Ben could see the screen. "There's a room waiting for you at the Westwood Hotel," he said. "It's yours for as long as you need it." Ben's fork clattered onto his plate. "Wait, what? A hotel?" Keanu nodded. "A real bed, a shower, warm meals." He held Ben's gaze. "It's not charity. Think of it as a stepping stone." Ben's throat tightened, his pride warring with the desperate need to keep his son safe. He had fought so hard, but the truth was, he was tired. Ethan grabbed his father's hand under the table. "Dad," he whispered, "please." For the first time, Ben let out a shaky breath and nodded. "Okay." Jennifer clapped her hands together. "Fantastic. And one more thing." She turned to Ben. "My friend at Memorial Hospital, they need someone for an administrative position." Ben's jaw dropped. You got me a job interview?" Keanu smirked. "It's yours if you want it." Ben leaned back in his chair, stunned into silence. Ethan, overwhelmed with gratitude, looked at Jennifer and Keanu, struggling to find words. They had saved him. They had saved his dad. Jennifer reached across the table and squeezed Ethan's hand. "Tomorrow, we start fresh." Keanu leaned back with a satisfied grin. "And tonight?" He raised a forkful of lasagna. "We celebrate." As laughter filled the private booth, Ethan finally let himself believe it. His nightmare was over, and his new life was just beginning. A new beginning. A new purpose. The sun peeked through the curtains of the Westwood Hotel suite, casting a warm glow over Ethan's face as he stirred awake. The plush bed beneath him was unlike anything he had ever slept in. For the first time in months, he had slept without fear, without hunger gnawing at his stomach. His mother, Rebecca, was already up, standing near the window, staring out at the city skyline with a mixture of disbelief and relief. She still looked tired, but there was something different in her eyes, hope. A gentle knock at the door made them both jump. Ethan rushed to open it, finding Jennifer Lawrence and Keanu Reeves standing there, smiling. "Morning, champ," Keanu said, handing him a bag filled with fresh pastries. "Hope you're hungry." Ethan's eyes lit up as he pulled out a warm croissant, the buttery scent filling the air. Jennifer stepped inside, looking at Rebecca with a knowing glance. "How are you feeling?" Rebecca exhaled deeply, shaking her head. "Like this isn't real." She ran a hand through her hair. "Like any minute, someone's going to knock on the door and tell us this was all some big mistake." Jennifer placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's not a mistake. You and Ethan deserve this chance, and we're not done yet." Rebecca's eyes welled up with tears, but before she could speak, Jennifer handed her an envelope. "Inside is everything you need for your new job at the hospital," she explained. "The administrative director is expecting your call today. No rush, just when you're ready." Rebecca's hands trembled as she held the envelope. A steady job, a way forward, a future. Keanu, meanwhile, sat down next to Ethan at the small hotel dining table. "How about you, buddy? Ready to go back to school?" Ethan hesitated. He hadn't stepped into a classroom in months. The idea of being the new kid, of having to catch up, of people knowing his past, it all made his stomach churn. Jennifer must have sensed his unease because she crouched beside him. "Listen, school can be tough, but I pulled a few strings. You'll be in a place where the teachers understand what you've been through, and I hear their science program is top-notch." Ethan's head snapped up. "Science?" Keanu grinned. "Yeah, and I heard they're looking for their next big science fair winner. You up for it?" For the first time in a long while, excitement flickered in Ethan's eyes. A home of their own weeks passed in a blur of new routines, new beginnings, and rebuilding. Jennifer's real estate team had found them a modest yet cozy 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood near Rebecca's new job and Ethan's new school. Moving day arrived faster than they had expected. Keanu personally helped them move in, carrying boxes and assembling furniture like it was his own home. Jennifer made sure the fridge was stocked and even set up a small desk in Ethan's room, complete with brand new school supplies. Rebecca stood in the center of the living room, her hands pressed to her mouth as she took in the space. A real home. No more sleeping in a car, no more searching for safe places to park at night. Jennifer handed her the keys. "Welcome home." Tears spilled down Rebecca's cheeks as she hugged Jennifer tightly. "I don't know how to thank you both." Keanu gave her a reassuring smile. "Just take care of yourselves. That's thanks enough." The power of a second chance. Ethan's return to school was met with curious glances and whispered questions. But unlike before, he didn't feel small. He had a home to return to, a mother who was safe and stable, and a future that suddenly felt full of possibilities. His teachers noticed his sharp mind almost immediately, and within weeks, he was fully caught up on the curriculum. His passion for science quickly made him stand out, and when the school announced its annual science fair, his name was the first one on the sign-up sheet. Meanwhile, Rebecca had settled into her job at the hospital, proving herself to be indispensable within her first month. Her supervisors took notice, and before long, she was promoted to a higher-paying administrative position. But the true test of how far they had come arrived one afternoon when Ethan came home and found his mother sitting at the kitchen table, staring at an envelope. "What is it?" he asked. Rebecca sighed. "It's the last medical bill, paid in full." Ethan's eyes widened. "You mean we're free?" She nodded, then laughed, shaking her head. "Yeah, baby, we're free." Full circle. Months later, Jennifer and Keanu stopped by to visit, this time with no gifts, no surprises, just as friends. Ethan excitedly pulled them into his room, showing them his science fair project, an innovative idea for low-cost medical technology, inspired by everything his mother had gone through. Keanu studied the project, nodding in approval. "This is incredible, kid. You're going to change lives." Jennifer ruffled Ethan's hair. "Told you we'd find you a school that appreciated your genius." As they sat down for dinner, Rebecca looked at the two stars who had become their guardian angels. "I don't think I'll ever be able to repay you for what you've done." Jennifer shook her head. "You don't have to. But if you really want to, then pay it forward." Keanu smiled. "Help someone else the way we helped you. That's how real change happens." Rebecca nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She would. She absolutely would. As laughter and warmth filled the small apartment, Ethan realized something profound. Not all heroes wore capes. Some wore leather jackets and designer dresses, and sometimes miracles came in the form of two kind souls who simply refused to walk away when they saw someone in need. And so, a simple request for $1 had turned into a lifetime of change. A ripple effect of kindness. The golden hues of sunset cast a warm glow over the small apartment as Ethan sat on the balcony, staring at the cityscape. His mother, Rebecca, leaned against the railing, sipping her tea, lost in thought. The once distant hum of passing cars and city life now felt comforting, a stark contrast to the restless nights they had spent in their car months ago. "Mom," Ethan said suddenly, his voice quiet but firm. "Remember when you thought no one cared?" Rebecca turned to him, her lips pressing together as memories of those dark, uncertain days resurfaced. Sleeping in parking lots, counting spare change for food, praying that tomorrow would be better. She exhaled deeply, nodding. "Yeah, baby, I remember." Ethan gestured toward their cozy living room, where school books lay open on the table, a stack of groceries sat by the counter, and a framed note from Jennifer Lawrence and Keanu Reeves hung on the wall. "Look at us now." Just last week, something remarkable had happened. Paying it forward. Ethan had always been observant, and lately he had noticed something troubling at school. A boy in his class, Jason, always sat alone during lunch. His clothes were clean but worn, and he always found excuses to avoid eating. It was too familiar. That night, as Rebecca prepared dinner, Ethan hesitated before speaking. "Mom, I think there's a kid at school who might be going through what we did." Rebecca paused, her spoon hovering over the pot of soup. She turned to look at him, her heart aching at the thought. "Are you sure?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, he never eats during lunch. He says he's not hungry, but I know that look. It's the same one I had before Keanu and Jennifer helped us." Rebecca placed the spoon down, deep in thought. "We know what that feels like," she murmured. The next morning she packed an extra lunch, not just a sandwich and fruit, but a full meal, the kind of meal they had longed for when they were struggling. Ethan carefully placed it in his bag, determined to help. At lunchtime, he casually sat next to Jason and slid the extra lunch across the table. "I brought too much food," he lied smoothly. "Want to help me out?" Jason hesitated, his eyes flickering with uncertainty, before finally reaching for the sandwich. "Thanks," he mumbled. Ethan didn't say anything. He didn't have to. He just smiled, watching as Jason took his first bite. It was a small act, but he knew how much it meant. A growing impact. Rebecca's generosity didn't stop there. Seeing how much just one meal had done for Jason, she expanded her kindness to their apartment complex. One weekend, she set up a small community food pantry in the lobby, a simple shelf stocked with essentials. Canned goods, rice, fresh fruit, even hygiene products. A handwritten sign read, "Take what you need, no questions asked." She worried at first that people might be too embarrassed to take anything. But one morning, she noticed a can of soup missing, then a bag of pasta, then a loaf of bread. The pantry was working. Soon, neighbors began contributing. Some dropped off extra groceries, others left notes of encouragement. What had started as a small act of kindness had blossomed into something bigger. A new purpose. Meanwhile, Ethan's schoolwork flourished. His teachers noticed his exceptional talent in science, particularly in biology and medicine. When the school announced its annual science fair, his teacher encouraged him to enter a project. That night, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, brainstorming ideas. He thought about his mother's struggles, about the medical bills that had nearly destroyed them. And then inspiration struck. His project focused on affordable healthcare solutions, specifically for families living below the poverty line. He designed a proposal for a mobile health clinic, a low-cost, community-driven initiative where medical professionals could offer free checkups, vaccinations, and consultations. "Mom, what if there was a way to help families before they lost everything?" he asked, his eyes shining with determination. Rebecca felt a lump rise in her throat. Her son, once a hungry and scared boy on the streets, was now dreaming of ways to save others from the same fate. A surprise visit. A few weeks later, Rebecca received a text from Jennifer Lawrence. "Keanu and I are in town. Can we stop by?" Excitement buzzed through their small apartment as they prepared for their special guests. When Jennifer and Keanu arrived, Ethan practically dragged them to his room, eager to show them his science project. Jennifer beamed as she read through his notes. "This is incredible, Ethan. You're thinking like a real innovator." Keanu smirked. "I think we have a future doctor in the making." Ethan grinned. "That's the plan." Rebecca smiled at her son, overwhelmed with gratitude. The very people who had saved them were now watching Ethan rise to his potential. The future begins now. Jennifer and Keanu stayed for dinner that night, their conversation flowing like that of old friends. As they prepared to leave, Jennifer pulled Rebecca aside. "You've done an amazing job, Rebecca. You took what we gave and turned it into something even greater." Rebecca exhaled, emotion thick in her voice. "I just wanted to make sure no one else felt the way we did." Keanu placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You know, kid, sometimes the best way to thank someone is to keep the kindness going." Ethan nodded, his eyes full of determination. "That's exactly what I'm going to do." As the door closed behind Jennifer and Keanu, Rebecca and Ethan stood in the warmth of their home, fully aware that their journey had only just begun. Because kindness doesn't just change lives, it creates a legacy. A legacy of kindness. The air was crisp as Ethan stepped onto the stage at his school's annual recognition ceremony. The auditorium was packed. Teachers, parents, and students all gathered to celebrate the accomplishments of the brightest minds in the district. Tonight was special, not just because Ethan was being honored, but because his journey to this moment had been anything but ordinary. His name was called, and applause filled the room. He adjusted his tie, a rare occasion where he had dressed up, and walked toward the podium. In the front row, his mother, Rebecca, beamed with pride, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Seated beside her were Jennifer Lawrence and Keanu Reeves, both watching with quiet admiration. They had seen him at his lowest, and now they were here for his greatest triumph. Ethan took a deep breath and leaned into the microphone. "A year ago, I was just another kid struggling to survive," he began. "Today, I stand before you with a purpose." He glanced down at the plaque in his hands, the Young Innovators Award, for his groundbreaking research on affordable healthcare solutions. The same project that had started as a simple science fair idea had now gained attention from medical institutions nationwide. The audience fell silent as Ethan continued. "This isn't just my story. This is about the people who believed in me when I had nothing. When I thought hope was lost, a stranger showed me that kindness still exists, and that one act of kindness changed everything." Rebecca wiped at her eyes, her mind flashing back to the night Ethan had asked for $1 outside the theater. The night that changed everything. The ripple effect of kindness. The impact of Jennifer and Keanu's generosity had stretched far beyond Ethan and Rebecca. What had started as a single act of kindness had become a movement. Rebecca's support program at the hospital had grown beyond anything she could have imagined. Other hospitals across the country had adopted her model, providing struggling families with resources and financial guidance to prevent them from facing the same hardships she once had. She had become a force of change, ensuring no parent had to choose between paying for food or medical care. Meanwhile, Ethan's research proposal had turned into something much bigger. A local university had taken interest, offering him a mentorship program where he could develop his ideas into a real-world healthcare initiative. Doctors and researchers now sought his insights, recognizing the potential in his work. He wasn't just a student anymore. He was becoming a leader. The community food pantry Rebecca started had also expanded to multiple locations. No longer just a shelf in the apartment lobby, it had become a citywide program, ensuring no family went hungry. The same generosity that had saved them was now saving countless others. And yet, Ethan and Rebecca never sought recognition. Like Jennifer and Keanu, they let their actions speak louder than words. After the ceremony, the crowd mingled, congratulating Ethan on his award. Jennifer and Keanu stood back, watching with pride. They had seen Ethan grow from a scared boy on the streets to a young man determined to change the world. As the event wound down, Keanu placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Come with us. We have something for you." Ethan followed them outside, where a sleek black car was parked. Inside, a box sat on the back seat. "Open it," Jennifer encouraged. Ethan hesitated before slowly lifting the lid. Inside was a brand new laptop, loaded with advanced software for medical research. But what caught his attention was the small framed note tucked inside. "For the future doctor. Keep chasing those dreams. The world needs more healers." His hands trembled slightly as he ran his fingers over the words. Jennifer smiled. "You're going to do incredible things, Ethan. This is just the beginning." That night, back at their apartment, Ethan sat at his desk, the award beside him, the framed note propped up next to it. He pulled open a drawer, reaching for an old, worn pair of sneakers. The same ones he had been wearing the night he met Jennifer and Keanu. The soles were torn, the fabric faded, but they held a story. He placed them beside the award, a reminder of how far he had come. Rebecca walked in, smiling as she saw what he was doing. "You keeping those old things?" she teased. Ethan nodded. "I need to remember where I started, because no matter how far I go, I want to make sure I never forget to help the next kid who needs a chance." Rebecca's eyes filled with pride. "You already have, sweetheart." A story that never ends today, Jennifer Lawrence and Keanu Reeves still check in on Ethan and Rebecca, not because they have to, but because they care. They had never wanted their kindness to be publicized, and to this day, few people know what they did. But the impact of their kindness continues to spread, inspiring countless others to help those in need, to believe in second chances, and to recognize that true wealth isn't about money. It's about the lives we touch. Ethan still volunteers at the youth center, mentoring kids who remind him of himself. He shares his story, telling them, sometimes the smallest request, even just asking for $1, can open the door to extraordinary change. And as he prepares for medical school, he knows one thing for sure. It's not about how far you fall, but who's there to help you rise. The story above teaches us that true kindness has the power to transform lives in ways we may never expect. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to overlook those in need, but a simple act of compassion, listening, offering help, or showing understanding can create a ripple effect of change. Success isn't measured by wealth or status, but by the impact we have on others. We should never judge people by their appearances or circumstances, because everyone is fighting their own battles. If we choose to uplift rather than ignore, to give rather than take, we can build a world where hope thrives. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe True Tapes channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you.